says, yeah, that's what I hear. And I said, well, have you ever seen anything? And he said, no. And I said, do you know anybody who's ever seen anything? And he said, no. And I said, do you know anybody who knows anybody who's ever seen anything? And he said, no.
Yeah, which is actually really good information, because when you read about this online, you'll hear like, this county, there's like so much phenomena, like everybody in the county has seen something. You will literally read like almost verbatim that thing. You know, it's like, it's such a weird place that everybody who lives in that town has seen something. And obviously that's not true.
No, it's not. I also called, there's a local newspaper in Vernal, Utah, which is a town about, I don't know, 10 or 15 miles northeast of Fort Duchesne. They have a little newspaper there called the Vernal Express, and so I got on their website and I called one of their reporters, a woman named Liberty Best, and had a little chat with her, and I said, well, about the Skinwalker Ranch thing, you've heard of it? She says, oh yeah. And asked her the same set of questions I asked the guy at the county, and it was always no. She doesn't know anybody who knows anybody who's seen anything, and I asked her if she'd ever talked to the Shermans. She never had. And then I called the Uintah County, I think it's Uintah County, I slightly mispronounced it, sorry, Sheriff's Office, and talked to somebody there because I wanted to find out, well, there are lots of reports of UFOs. Not really, no. And
Cops were like, no, not really.
The person I talked to is like, she was very nice, and she said she'd never seen anything. She said her parents did see some weird stuff years ago, but she didn't say exactly what it was. That's about it. I mean, that's not exactly a comprehensive survey of the people of the area.
But it's not. I mean, if there's only like 1,000 people who live in the area, right? I mean,
you think somebody would know somebody?
One of those 3 people should know somebody who knows somebody who, you know. And I guess if the woman's mom and dad saw something, like, then okay, there's a sample there. But
yeah, but you know, I've seen weird things in my life.
Yeah, and if there's this amount, if as reported, as much stuff is happening as is reported, they should be seeing stuff left and right. I mean, realistically,
absolutely. And and there's lots of surrounding properties near the ranch and with houses on them. People are living there, and you know, so
it's not as if it's desolate.
No, there's plenty of people living in the area.
Also, as a fun little note to remind everyone, phenomena like this doesn't necessarily respect parcel boundaries.
Yeah, why would they stay on the ranch?
Wait, what?
Right. No, I mean, that's something that I think people, like, it's very easy to get swept up in forgetting, like, oh, this stuff is happening on this ranch, but, like, why is it not happening around the ranch, too?
You would think it would
There's no good reason.
No spillover.
No, there's no spillover. It's happening in these 400 acres alone, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Back to debunking some of these things, as if Joe's 3 calls weren't enough.
They're not conclusive. But
I did Google.
He's going to charge us for those phone calls, by the way.
Oh, I know he is. Yeah.
He's going to submit the receipt.
Long distance, I know.
Yeah, I know.
I did do a search because, you know, my first inclination whenever we hear UFO, like weird lights, stuff like that, is like, well, obviously there must be an Air Force base around there, right?
Yeah, there really
there's
isn't.
Actually not.
There's not anywhere close by.
It's suspiciously barren of any military installation.
That is suspicious.
It is. No, it's like equidistant between like 4 different ones. So that in itself, maybe that's suspicious. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It is, because it is. It's almost exactly in the middle between Camp Williams and the F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Wyoming. Like almost equidistant. That's not.
I think it's closer to Camp Williams myself, but
it's like I said, almost equidistant. Yeah. So maybe they've been like testing back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Special, like, you know, reverse engineered, like, you know, American made flying saucers that we.
Yeah. Although I will take this moment to mention, we've mentioned briefly that Terry and Gwen Sherman were the owners of this property from the early 90s until.
Yeah, they bought it in 94 and I think sold it in 96.
Yeah, they were only like 2 or 3 years.
Only 2 or 3 years. So in 1996, this guy, Robert Bigelow, he's the millionaire owner of...
billionaire.
Billionaire owner of Budget Suites of America, and also the founder of Bigelow Aerospace. He owns almost the entirety of Skinwalker Ranch now.
Oh, he owns the whole thing.
He owns the whole thing?
Yeah.
I thought there was like a little bit that he didn't own.
Not
There's
as far
like a
as-
very small acreage, but no. I mean,
there's
I
a
trust you on this stuff more
sev-
than I trust myself.
Yeah, I
so.
did. You can actually search the county assessor site by owner name, and I searched for the Shermans, and the only parcel that they own is in Jensen, Utah. So, and all 7 parcels that are the ranch are owned by Bigelow Utah LLC.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess it's a little interesting because you may have missed the fact that I said that he is the founder of Bigelow Aerospace. Excuse me, Aerospace.
He's putting a hotel into space. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's kind of a cool idea.
It's an inflatable.
It's a big inflatable structure. They're gonna put it up into orbit, and then they're gonna have one of those little
CO2 cartridges.
CO2 cartridges, and that's gonna blow the whole thing up. And,
Well, this is like fun discussion, but he has actually put
2 of them.
things into space.
Oh, yeah.
Right, he's got 2 of them in
He's
space.
got 2 things in space
One
right
of them's
now.
been up there for a couple of years.
So maybe he was actually using the ranch as testing, and he just wasn't telling anybody.
could be they do seem to want
That's
to.
a total D move right there. And I can
Oh yeah. Okay, so we're getting off track again. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay. So the things like slugs, I think we can dismiss that. I can't find any information about what they look like, how often we see these things, how we even know about them. So I'm going to go ahead and dismiss that phenomenon.
Well,
like,
we can defend
off the
ourselves
bat.
from them very easily.
They're slugs.
Stomp on them.
Salt.
Salt.
Just
Yeah.
carrying a shaker of salt
Yeah.
when you go to the ranch.
Yeah,
There
I
you
think
go.
either they're slugs or they're leeches. They might just be bigger, or they're just totally made up.
Who knows? Then maybe there's some sort of slug that's native to Utah that's the size of your arm.
Maybe.
You never know.
Yeah, maybe they're like the Mongolian
Oh, it's
death
like
worms.
tremors or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Firefly sprites and the Flash drones, I think, are probably the same thing. And I think that they are a thing that I think we talked about this before, briefly in
we
another episode. It's a pretty well-known phenomenon called Will-o'-the-Wisps. I think we talked about it in the Montauk? No.
No, well, we talked about this earlier, and I
Yeah,
was trying
but
to
I
remember,
can't-
and I thought that it was either the Who Put Bella in the Witch Elm, or the other one that I think it might have been was the Forest.
Rendlesham
Rendlesham
Forest.
Forest.
Yeah, I can't remember because I swear it was an episode that you did. I did actually go through. I can't listen to all of our episodes. I actually couldn't even go through all of our.
The 120 something
Yeah,
that are
couldn't
out
do
right
it.
now.
No, yeah.
You don't have time for that.
Weird, right? But I do remember at one point we talked about this natural phenomena with the lights that shoot out of the water. Do you remember
Swamp
this,
gas
Joe?
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swamp gas sort of
Vaguely,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So scientists.
There's no swamps near the ranch, though, right?
No, but it's not only seen around swamps. It's seen around any kind of body of water, and not even exclusively around bodies of water, but anywhere where there might be gas releases.
It is a naturally occurring phenomena.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, So scientists aren't 100% sure what causes it, but they are 100% sure that it's a natural phenomena.
Yeah,
And we
there's
see it all over the place, all over the world.
Yeah, and there's other phenomena too, like floating lights are not uncommon, like the Marfa lights in Texas.
Yeah,
And that-
exactly.
And those have pretty much been proven to just be car headlights passing through what's called a Fata Morgana mirage, which is what's called a superior mirage
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because it makes things on the ground appear to be up in the air, makes them
That's-
appear to be higher than they
Well,
are.
that's the same thing that it's currently going around on the day we're recording this. Will be several weeks past,
Mm-hmm.
but there is the floating Chinese skyscrapers. Have you guys seen this?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't
There's
seen that.
clouds
So
in the
cool.
sky, and there are skyscrapers in the clouds.
That's
And it's
awesome.
the exact same
Yeah.
phenomenon
Yeah.
that's causing that.
And actually, I guess we bring up at this point, likely it's the exact same phenomena that's causing a motorcycle to be 8 feet in the air.
That's entirely possible too. Yeah.
But no, there are a lot of different, totally provable natural phenomena that these lights could be,
Yeah. Oh,
easily,
right.
including fireflies.
Yeah, I don't know if they have those
Throw
in
that out
Utah,
there.
but
I don't know if they do either, but it could be a thing.
Or maybe somebody lit some flies on fire.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cruel.
Yeah. it is.
The bulletproof wolf, I'm 99.95% sure it's just a real wolf.
Joe and I were talking about this before you got here today is the descriptions of the size of this wolf. One of the things that cracked me up is, I think it was the wife said that they saw the wolf, and it was the size of her car, and she was driving a Chevy Chevette.
Yeah, no.
Guess who owned a Chevy Chevette at one time?
Yeah.
This kid right here. And I can tell you that a Chevy Chevette, I'm normal height, 5'9", 10, whatever, and it's about mid-chest height on me.
Yeah.
Been around really big dogs like Great Danes and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
They're pretty big.
they're,
Yeah, just-
you know,
yeah.
little bigger than hip height.
Yeah.
So this is bigger than that.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say is that I have actually had the pleasure of interacting with real live wolves in real life. And I think that people don't realize how stinking big they are.
They are big.
You know, especially if you're a rancher and you've like seen them in the distance, or you just like see
You think
coyotes.
they're dogs.
You think they're just like the size of a lab or something like that. Those things are giant. Their paws are as big as my hand. Like they are big animals.
But they're not that big.
But they're not.
Not as big as a car.
No, certainly not. But they are big, and I can imagine that if you were suddenly approached by a big dog, you know, even if it wasn't that big, your mind is going to go, oh my God, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, oh,
right?
sure,
You're
yeah.
going to inflate that it's bigger, especially if it's acting a way that you're not used to it acting. And I also am not willing to say that it's like so unusual. I'm not willing to say that like a wolf is always going to walk up to you. But if you are on a ranch and that wolf and its family is living on that ranch,
That territory.
and that's its territory, and also it hasn't been threatened.
Well, that's it. The ranch was.
It was abandoned.
It was
for a really
abandoned for
long
at least
time.
like 7 years.
And
I
you're
think.
not
And-
like yelling at it and trying to get it away.
Yeah.
It's probably not. I am not willing to say it like saddled up to them and like was friendly, but for a wild animal, it may have been friendly. I don't have a hard time believing that it's a real wolf.
Yeah, like I said,
at all.
it happened right after they moved in.
Yeah.
And so the wolf would probably had the run of the place for years, and now suddenly they show up. And
Yeah.
He's like curious about them and everything. But as far as the shooting goes, I don't even know how well documented the shooting was.
I don't believe
think
it.
I don't think there ever was
No.
a bulletproof.
One
wolf.
of the things they talk a lot about with this wolf is that they say it like wasn't aggressive, but it'll stare at you with like really intimidating stare, which is not uncommon for an alpha wolf to do. If it's big and you're not like actively threatening it, it'll look at you like it's angry at you,
Oh, and by
Because
the-
but
watching
it's
you.
not gonna attack you
Well,
unless you attack it.
Yeah, the one thing I think, one bit of advice is if the alpha wolf is staring at you, don't stare him down.
No,
Don't
back
do that.
away. Like, be smart about it. But I'm just saying that
Yeah,
like, the behavior
yeah.
that's described for this bulletproof wolf, I have a really hard time thinking it's anything other than
Just a wolf.
just a wolf. And one of the other things that I think is really interesting, actually, is that one of the other phenomena they describe a lot is these things called the controllers, which just sounds like two men talking back and forth. And have you guys ever heard wolves howl in the distance? Not the like...
The close ones, but far away when it gets broken up by
and it's not the
by
high pitch one, it's the
geography.
lower pitch one. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about? Have you
I
heard
do.
those?
Yeah.
Sounds kind of like two dudes talking in the distance.
Yeah, you know what's really cool to hear too is coyotes off in the distance at night.
Yeah.
that's a really cool sound.
Actually, I want to talk about coyotes.
Can we, before we get to the coyote thing,
You want to talk about wolves some more?
there's one thing about this. They call it the dire wolf, right?
Uh-huh.
The dire wolf.
Or the
And
bulletproof wolf.
the giant, I was going to call it something else, the giant wolf. Here's the one thing that if this wolf is that big, there's one thing that I would imagine people would have noticed that is never talked about, and I know I've brought us back to this subject before. Scat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be a
If
lot
a
of it.
dog is an animal the size of the car is gonna make
Really big. poop.
large amounts of excrement.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's gonna be.
Maybe that's what's causing the lights.
The point is,
Yeah.
you would think that there would be reports of these random giant turds on the ranch.
Especially in ranches always have lots of turds on them already.
It's
Yeah,
true,
that's
but
true.
that
Well-
was the way that they would have found.
And
that
One
kind
of,
of
I
evidence.
mean, one of the
too.
other things, while we're on the subject of wolves and like cattle, because the Shermans were ranchers and they bought the land to have their cow ranch on. right?
Yeah.
To raise their cattle. And then there were all these reports of like, look, cattle are getting mutilated. Okay. Or wolves are getting them.
So I
happens.
looked up into the wolf populations, and in the 80s and then into the 90s, there was these big pushes for reestablishing packs.
Yeah.
Because
Later than that,
humans
but
had
yeah.
hunted them nearly most of them into extinction.
Mm-hmm.
There actually wasn't that large of a wolf population in the country in general.
Yeah.
So this area to have that would be extremely unusual. Even today where the packs are bigger than they've been in 80 or 90 years, that would still be a very strange concentration because those animals are very nomadic.
They are, though.
They have huge ranges.
They absolutely do. That's true. There's that nice little stretch up through Utah, up kind of through the rest of the country. that's
Colorado, all
pretty-
heading on up into Canada.
Pretty wooded. It's not like solidly wooded, but the thing that didn't really start happening until the late 90s, early 2000s was actual wolf tracking. Like they pretty much tried to round up every single alpha, male and female, and tag them. And they like put collars on them so
Right.
they can track them. That's where we get OR7, for instance, the only wolf in Oregon. But we didn't never start tracking that. So while it is unlikely that there was a quote unquote concentration, it's not bizarre to think there was a small pack or even just an alpha, right, with no mate, because they can go a long time without having mates. That just was undocumented.
But my problem is that they range over huge areas.
Absolutely.
And this story implies that it lived on this half-mile square chunk of ground
I don't know if
for a
that's-
fair amount of time in the course of a
that
year.
it like spent some time there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know that it like lived
Well,
there.
I'm just saying it implies that it was very very localized when that's not the way those creatures
Sure.
Yeah.
react.
But in
And I mean,
fairness,
we're all on the same page.
with a
here.
15% sighting rate, it's possible that you only see it 15% of the year. I mean,
Beats me with
Yeah,
math
it's
every
possible,
time.
Possible it's a different wolf every time too. Mm-hmm. It's also possible a lot of these cattle deaths are being caused by coyotes and stuff like that. Too.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, are
so-
we going to talk about that?
Yeah, do you want to talk about it now?
I think we should.
Yeah, so the cattle death. You have a lot of stuff you want to talk about.
Well, I do, because one of the things that you see this in rural UFO stories, and you see it a lot in this one, is the cattle mutilation.
Yeah, and there's a number that's thrown around with Terry Sherman's herd. Right?
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that
Yeah,
in a
let's
bit.
talk about
But the point is, people say, well, and it was a half hour ago I saw that cow, and now it's dead and completely mutilated.
It's
There's
almost
no blood
always
on the ground.
Nightkin, so yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but I can't remember what kind of cow he had, but it seems to me there's spotted cows and there's uniform color cows. And it seems like his cattle were uniform colored, so that's really hard for me to buy because from a distance you can't read their tag. So you don't know if it's the same cow.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was confused about that train of thought for a second. What you're saying is that, like, you wouldn't be able to tell from a distance what cow he was looking
Was that cow 75 or was that cow 15?
Got it. Okay.
You don't know.
Okay, yeah.
From a distance, to read the tag, I mean, those tags
Yeah,
are
no,
big,
no.
but...
I see what you're saying. I was just confused about why it mattered what kind of cow he had.
Okay, yeah, but people say, I saw that cow half an hour ago and now it's completely mutilated.
Right.
There's no blood. Well, Utah's very cold in the winter,
Mm-hmm.
and so the blood isn't going to blow everywhere when a cow dies,
Mm-hmm.
unless, it gets shot. The other thing is, if you look up what kind of natural predators are in the area, well, there's big cats,
Yep.
and there's wolves.
Yep.
Okay, well, those guys are going to do huge amounts of damage to an animal when they get a hold of it.
Oh, hell yeah.
But if something dies and smaller things get to it, like coyotes, raccoons, possums, skunks, they know an easy meal, and that's called a dead animal. And what do they go for? They go for the softest tissue, and
Which is unfortunately...
it's going to be the anus, it's going to
Yeah.
be the genitals, it's going to be the udder, it's going to be the lips or the mouth and the eyes, and sometimes maybe the ears, which are all the areas that you always hear called out as these strange areas that were surgically removed. But if you look at all these animals, they have very small, sharp teeth, and they cut in kind of a clean line because this is a terrible thing to imagine, but start at the back and burrow your way in. You're going to leave a pretty clean hole as you work your way through the soft tissue.
Oh, sure.
Because you're not going to be able to eat the tougher tissue easily.
I really would like to counsel these animals and just say, look, if you take the trouble to go through the cowhide on the haunches of the thing, and there's some really awesome steaks there. I mean, it's much better. You're eating the gross
much
parts.
better, yeah.
But that's the soft and easy meal.
Oh, I know.
There are also, I guess it's worth mentioning, a fair amount of venomous snakes in Utah.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be insane to think, well, maybe they didn't die of natural causes. Maybe that cow was dumb and stepped on that snake and it got bit with venom.
And cows are stupid. Cows run into things that are solid.
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever seen a cow run headlong into a like a flat wall. Mm-hmm. Not you can see through slats. I'm talking like brick wall,
solid.
stone. They'll just head on, run right into it.
Yeah.
It's kind of too bad. I've heard that the original wild cows were a lot smarter, but humans have pretty much bred every.
We've done that to most domesticated animals.
Yeah, they are completely.
We're good at making
now.
things dumb.
Yeah, we are.
So
did you have more that you wanted to talk about with that?
Well, no, we'll talk. We're going to talk about it's Terry, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about Terry later on a little bit more, I believe.
A little, yeah.
We'll save it till then.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're done talking about the wolf.
Oh yeah, no more wolf.
Okay, because we are still talking about animals.
Yes.
And have either of you ever heard a fox scream?
Yeah. You ever heard a fox make the scare noises, the fear noises?
Yeah, they call it
Weird.
vixen scream. The vixen scream. Do you know what I'm talking about, Joe?
I've never heard it, although it might be that I've heard it and I just thought it was a human being screaming.
I'm going to pause real quick and we'll listen to it. So hold on, everybody, for a second. Okay, we're back. Now Joe's heard it, too. Mm-hmm. If you haven't heard it, go out and just Google fox screaming. You'll hear it. They sound a whole lot like humans screaming.
Yeah.
And if you've
it's
ever
a weird
heard,
noise.
I don't know if you've heard the pups making that noise, but they sound like babies. Like they sound like babies crying. Not like wah wah wah, but like a baby
screaming
crying.
child. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what else sounds like babies crying? Fishers, mongoose, peacocks, bobcats. A whole mess of other animals. Granted, on that list, most of those animals don't exist in Utah.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I'm sure mongoose don't exist.
No.
Is it mongoose or mongooses?
I don't know. I'm going to call them
Mongai.
mongoose.
Okay.
But peacocks do actually really, really sound like babies crying. I don't know I know there are a lot of places in America where people have peacocks on their farms. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
We had 'em.
I don't know if there are any in that area or not. There's really no way to know except for to go there. Or I guess Joe could call them again or something.
Yeah, I'll call it.
Yeah.
Anybody got any peacocks down there? You know anybody knows peacocks?
Fishers are all, they're in North America, but they're kind of more like our area and then
The
up
Northwest.
in the Northeast and in Canada. Bobcats, they definitely have bobcats down there though.
Yeah. There are cats.
So for me, it would not be a hard stretch to hear a fox screaming in the middle of the night and mistake that for a baby crying. And then, as we know, people don't usually recover from seeing the babies, so it's pretty easy for somebody to say oh, do you hear that baby crying? Yeah, don't ever. This is what happens. So
the water babies are foxes dressed up in little suits and
Yes.
making noises, and then when you go down there to pull them out, they grab you and they pull you under and they tear your throat out.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah. Or they're just foxes making noises and somebody's elaborated on what happens.
Somebody's telling BS stories about how that water baby's going to murder you.
Yeah. The spotlight, as we kind of talked about, Joe just said what the phenomenon was, and I can't even.
What, the mirages?
Yeah, the mirage thing.
The Fata Morgana mirages.
Yeah,
mirages.
so I think that's totally possible. It's also possible as low-flying airplanes. Mm-hmm. I guess the only things that really fall into the category are The portal and the sentient mist, I'm willing to say the mist is probably just some freaking mist.
I think these
yeah.
are both.
The portal, I don't know about. I don't think that's a real thing. I don't think anybody's seen it. I think somebody played the game Portal and was like, oh, that's a good idea.
I think these are brown bottle visions.
Or like the mushrooms that grow on cow pies.
Yeah. By the way, people, never eat mushrooms. I think I've given you this warning before. Just don't do it. It's way
Or
safer.
do it in the safety of your own home with a babysitter.
They-
Don't start telling people about stuff.
No, just eat the mushrooms that are at the salad bar. Those ones are deemed safe. All the other ones, stay away from them. Just don't do it.
I don't think somebody hallucinated this stuff. I think that somebody took what was probably a somewhat, what's the word I'm thinking, apocryphal story that was printed in the mid-90s in the Deseret News, and then decided, I'm going to graft so much crap onto this. I'm going to make up so much outrageous stuff and just see what I can get away with. Just see how much outrageous stuff I can get people
Sounds like
Theory on a
something
lot of
Joe would
these.
do, actually.
Yeah, I know. I think I will do that.
Yeah. And then the last is the dark one. I kind of fall either side of this. Either somebody totally made it up, or, I mean, they are really close to the Ute reservation.
Yeah, they're right next
So
door.
it's possible that somebody actually saw an actual Native American man and was just like, well, that's weird.
Uh-huh.
I wonder how I can twist this into a paranormal story. I just keep thinking of that. Did you guys watch the new episodes of Arrested Development, the ones on Netflix?
No, I haven't seen those.
There's a part where one of the characters like thinks he sees a vision, but it's like kind of obscured by the sun, and it's like just a guy in like a peacock suit just being a jerk. Like that's where I always go to with things like this is like it's like I don't know what the situation was. Was the sun in your eyes? Were you like drunk? What's going on there?
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. So, but I guess I'm not entirely willing to say it's all 100% made up, I guess. The original owners of the land and house, you'll see either they like abandoned the property for a really, really, really long time, or they died.
They died in like 1987.
And then it
elderly
just
couple
was
yeah.
abandoned for a couple years.
Been there for like
before the
7 years, I heard.
Shermans- Before the Shermans bought it. So either of those, I as with all things real estate, I tend to trust Joe, given that he's called for like actual sources and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But the Shermans, Gwen and Terry, you'll see their names be almost everything under the sun. Something Sherman,
It's like
John, Joe.
Terry Gorman,
Yeah.
Terry Gilman.
Yeah, no, it's Terry and Gwen Sherman. Those are the actual names of the actual owners of the property. They bought the house and the property because Terry's cattle business was kind of taking off.
This point forward, what you're about to go over, are the Shermans the source, or is Mr. Walker the guy who did all the writing? Skinner. Damn it! Is he the source of all of this?
As far as I can tell, they are the source of all of it.
Okay.
Well,
It's purported that they reported this.
So he is the one who provided it in writing as their voice.
I don't know if you got that from
think it
them
was-
or if you got it from subsequent people because
Okay.
obviously they left in
I
'96.
just want to ask because I just this all is so amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that glossy coat on it that I wanted to know where it came from.
Well, it is said that they reported all this stuff. Whether that's true or not, I don't know that we'll ever know.
Yeah, I know that they reported at least cattle mutilations and a few other odd things happening. They reported seeing lights. They reported seeing UFOs. Actual, not just lights, but actual spaceships.
And the reason they gave for leaving the house was that they just couldn't sleep well, and that. Right? Wasn't that... I thought that was authenticated.
Yeah,
for them.
There were things that were keeping them up at night and
that they,
banging
like,
around the
would-
house. And
No, I just heard
but-
that they had a hard time sleeping, and when they finally did get to sleep, they would have nightmares. And then, like, the fantastical code of that was, like...
shared nightmares.
Yeah. But I don't believe that. I do believe that probably they, I mean, you know,
I-
it's totally legit to say, like, possibly they were, but also possibly some billionaire came and was like, here's a bunch of money for your
I know,
property. And they were
exactly.
like,
Uh-huh.
no problem.
Yeah, I think they
My
might
cattle
have.
business is doing really bad.
Really poorly, so okay, I'll
Awesome.
take all that money.
Well, exactly, and I think they got out of the cattle business because the parcel that they moved to was only 3.25 acres.
Yeah, so it's not really enough.
Not enough
No.
to do anything like that,
No.
and so they probably just sold off their remaining cattle that hadn't been eviscerated by aliens,
Yeah.
and moved off to Jensen to their new smaller parcel.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
when reportedly, from who knows where, when the Shermans bought the property, they got to the house. I guess they bought it sight unseen. I don't know why they didn't see this stuff
I'm
before.
not sure if that's the case or not.
I don't know either,
By
but
the way, we know where they moved from.
it was in the area, I thought.
Yeah, Gwen is actually from the area. She's from very close by. Terry was originally from Arizona.
And
But
I saw allusions to the fact that he was in the cattle business before they moved there.
He was, and
Yeah.
it was
But I
somebody
almost got,
in the description that I read. It was like, oh, in his